Monday, May the 16th, Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting. At this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Couch for an invocation.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads, seek the peace, give thanks for all our many blessings. We come to you this evening, Father, with just appreciation for our natural beauty and promise of coming warmth, the promise of coming flowers. And we just ask, Heavenly Father, that you continue to work in our lives, each and every one of us, from the youngest child to the oldest person in our community that we love. And we ask you to inspire us with your guidance, inspire us with your knowledge. Let us think with our heads and act from our heart. These and all things we say in your precious holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner Couch. May we stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
County Manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Item 1 on the agenda is the opening remarks from the chairman.
Thank you, County Manager. And Commissioners, I'll try to be brief. I got the message last time. I want to thank our fellow commissioners for last Thursday. We voted a number of months ago to change the name of the community center, and we had the formal ceremony this past Thursday celebrating the Virginia Tillett Community Center. And it was a great crowd. I really appreciate this board's decision to do that, and certainly to participate in that celebration. Really good turnout, and appreciate everyone being there. Second item, this morning, County Manager and Commissioner Bateman and Commissioner House attended the Ferry Division's 75th anniversary celebration. 75 years of exemplary service by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. These hardworking men and women of the Ferry Division bravely endured adverse conditions and pandemics and everything else Mother Nature throws at them. And they're truly heroes on the front lines of providing service for our residents and visitors to Outer Banks. In 1947, they purchased a private ferry route from Mans Harbor to Roanoke Island that was operated by T.A. Baum. And I've heard many stories from those who took the ferry to and from work and school. And over the years, they extended to about 7 routes, including a much-needed emergency route in the event of an alternative way is needed to connect Hatteras Island to certainly Dare County community. And let's not forget the new deluxe passenger ferry that links Hatteras Island to Ocracoke. And this was an economic boost that this new service provides our state. Last year, the Ferry Division safely transported 750 vehicles and more than 1.6 million passengers across the 5 separate bodies of water. And today, the Ferry Division, and certainly is commended because of them, people have access to employment opportunities, medical care, essential services, recreational endeavors, and a way for the families to enjoy vacations and make lifetime memories. So congratulations to the North Carolina Ferry Division, 75 years of service and incredible accomplishment. I also want to reach out to NCDOT. Once again, they never cease to amaze me, Commissioner Couch, how hard they work on NC-12 from the bridge to Rodanthe. As we all know, last week was just a horrific week with the road being closed for a number of days. And they worked tirelessly to get that road open and get residents and visitors down there. So hats off once again to NCDOT for all the work that they do to keep our NC-12 open.
Yeah, it was Thursday around noonish, right, that they were able to open?
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe that.
I know,
After
it's
4
unbelievable.
days of that nor'easter, I can't
Yeah.
believe they got it open.
It's incredible.
They're out there working full time.
Yeah, they
That's
work
amazing.
during the storm
That
and
is amazing.
everything. It's just unbelievable. And certainly last but not least, I'm proud to mention this as a veteran. This weekend, May 21st, is Armed Forces Appreciation Day. And all of my fellow military retirees, current military staff, those who've served our country and lost their lives. I'm so proud of each and every one of them. Armed Forces Day is a special holiday for people, not only in the United States, but the world, to come together and thank the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. It was first conceived by President Harry S. Truman. The holiday was established in 1949. This was a creation of a single-day celebration for all 5 branches of the United States military, made sense due to its recent unification under the Department of Defense. Today, Armed Forces Day is celebrated on the 3rd Saturday of every May, and this year it falls on May 21st, which is this Saturday. And it is celebrated through the month of May, which also celebrates Loyalty Day, Victory in Europe Day, Military Spouses Appreciation Day, Armed Forces Week, and Memorial Day. On August 31st, 1949, Secretary of Defense Lewis Johnson announced the creation of an Armed Forces Day to replace the separate Army, Navy, Air Force days. The single-day celebration stemmed from the unification of the armed forces under the one department, the Department of Defense. In a speech announcing the formation of the day, President Truman praised the work of the military services at home and across the seas and said it is vital to the security of the nation to establishment of a desired peace. And we continue to think of our men who serve overseas, men and women who serve overseas and here at home to protect us. And I'm just proud to announce this coming Saturday is Armed Forces Day. If you have a moment, take a moment to think about those who serve in the military. With that being said, County Manager, that completes my comments.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. That brings us to item 2, which is public comment. Now's the time that's been set aside for public comment. If anyone has public comment this evening and you've not signed up, please raise your hand. If you do, I'll recognize you. Please come to the podium, state your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. I don't have any signups and I don't see any hands. Is there any public comment in Buxton?
No comment from Buxton.
Mr. Chairman, we would move on to item number 3, and this is the use of the June 30, 21 general fund unassigned fund balance over the target percentages. And Dave Clausen will make that presentation as well as the next agenda item as well.
Good evening, Dave.
Good evening. This item is somewhat related to your budget adoption. It's got some items that we recommended be added, or not added to the budget, but be done separately. But first, I emailed yesterday, and then this afternoon, I emailed a correction to what Skylar's handed down, which was the fund balance history, because that's what this item is about. what we knew was that at the end of 2021, the total unassigned fund balance was 34.3 million, and the amount over our target of 21% of revenues was 9.9 million. Now, if you do all the items in this agenda sheet and the next agenda, this projection for the end of next June, June of 22, is that the total will go down just a bit to 32.4 million, and that the amount over the 21% unassigned will go down to 7.7 million. There's also an amount, and Commissioner Ross asked that I point this out, and he is correct. Under the restrictions in the middle of the page, the third line down is something we're required to do by state law, which is called reserved by state statute. It used to be a simple thing. Now there's a state treasurer worksheet that we have to use to calculate the number. The intent of it was that you can't budget what you hadn't realized in cash as of June 30th. That's the intent. And it's a bigger number for coastal and mountain counties, for resort counties, because of how big our receivables get from June. Actually, at the end of the year, it's April, May, and June sales taxes. And then 1 month of occupancy tax, and June is our third largest month.
And who is the deadbeat creditor that owes us this money? Oh, that would be the state of North Carolina. Please continue.
Well, let me add that the rating agencies, when they look at this, they combine the two numbers. How about that?
Because the rating agencies recognize there's virtually zero risk on a receivable from the state of North Carolina. So it's essentially a guaranteed revenue, which I would agree with. Yeah.
And yes, there's a lot of us that completely agree. So the first page after the write-up in your agenda sheet, which is this page,
Right.
it shows a history. So we'll go back to the 2020 fund balance and shows what you used that for. It was on May 17th, 2021, which was when we went back and amended the budget, when we knew COVID wasn't going to be the financial disaster that we thought when you originally adopted the budget. Then at the end of 2021, as I said, you had $9.9 million over the target percentage. You've already during the year used that for 3 different items, which are the first 3 items in that column. The main one is almost $1 million for the sheriff records management software. Then the county manager and I have recommendations for the remainder of that 9.9. First is to transfer, it's an odd number, but it's $1,811,436 to a housing fund to use for the Woda Cooper Bowsertown project. When you combine that with the amount from the next agenda item, that comes to the 9 million that the board committed to that project. At the budget workshop, you agreed to potentially provide a match to a grant for broadband for $100,000. We recommend we transfer over $545,130 to the law enforcement officer special separation allowance, and that'll fully fund that to what the liability was at the end of June of 21. Then we have one-time budget items. There were 2 small items from the general fund budget that we didn't include in the manager's budget, and there were 2. It was time clocks in IT and scanning of some old records for the Register of Deeds preservation. Then there were 2 things for requested CIP items that were brand new, popped up in the first year, but there were $163,000 for aerial imagery for revaluation and $148,000 for street level photography. So they need both of those items for the next revaluation process. I threw in, and I'm asking that you move $1 million over to the Retiree Health Irrevocable Trust. That trust balance has actually grown quite a bit from $1.2 million in 2017 to 2.1 at the end of 21. but this would still increase it by like 45%. I'm also being a little reactionary, to tell you the truth. At our last debt approval in the local government commission meeting, state treasurer made a comment about our irrevocable, or about our liability. And I will say he gave you no credit for making annual contributions, and he gave you no credit for having an irrevocable trust set up, which were one of less than 10 in the state. But this will make more progress, and between the policy changes that have been made in the past and the funding that you put into it, that liability will come down to meet the amount in the trust. I can't tell you if that's 25 years or 50, but it'll happen. But this will increase our position and make it look better.
The net liability is $172 million.
Actually, I made a typo. It's 175.
$175 million.
Interest rates.
Is there like 12,000 people in the retirement fund or something? This is amazing. $175 million.
It's a projection for every past and current employee for what they will qualify for and eventually cost until they die.
Assuming we stopped doing business today and had to pay out that liability. It doesn't
Right.
take into account future revenues. It doesn't take into account time. It's just, if you cut off, if the county stopped in existence today and had to pay everything that had to be paid from forever into the retirement, then.
We could not pay $172 million.
Yeah, right.
So
It's,
I remember our conversation about this, Bobby, a couple years ago.
and even, and let's just say over the next 30 years, we saved $172 million, and now we've got it set aside for that liability. It's saving for a liability that could never occur. So now you got this money sitting there
Exactly.
to do nothing. with it.
Okay.
So-
I thought I remembered it correctly.
Yeah.
You've confirmed that I do.
Yeah.
And David, I know you're locked into these things, but
That's right.
honest to gosh.
The final item is there's a potential workforce housing project, which the county contribution would need to be $1.5 million. If that doesn't happen, you would have another 1.5 million in a housing fund to use at your discretion. And then the remainder of that original $9 million number is almost $3.5 million, which we're recommending we just leave in the fund balance between interest rates.
To refresh your memory on that 1.5, that was, the guy was trying to do the J1 housing and came to us and said that he would take a $150,000 a year tax abatement over 10 years if that came to fruition. So we've set that aside. So if it happens, we're ready. If it doesn't happen, we aren't really involved, so I don't know where that is. But if it happens, we're prepared to do our part. If it doesn't happen, then we have that available in the future to do something with.
Right.
And then the rest of that sheet that I pointed out shows the next agenda item, which is what you're doing in this fiscal year toward housing, and then 2 more items that you've done in next year's budget. So the requested action is to adopt the budget amendment, which is the last page of this packet.
I would move to adopt the budget amendment as presented.
Okay, there's a motion,
Second.
there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Ross to adopt the budget amendment as presented, and it's been seconded by the vice chair. Floor is open for further discussion. Hearing none, those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dave.
Item number 4 goes back to our American Rescue Plan grant, which was $7,188,564. And what we did back in February was you decided to use that grant for public safety salaries and fringes, because we were allowed to do so because we took the exemption as having a revenue loss, which is you could, any local government can take a $10 million exemption. So that amount or below. So we took that exemption. That created savings in the general fund. And what's changed since then is I asked the School of Government, I had read something and made the assumption that we had to wait till after June 30th, after the end of the year, to move the money and use those savings. But school government says there is no requirement to wait until after the end of the year. There's no audit requirement. There's no other requirement. So you can go ahead and essentially move those savings or use those savings during this year. So what we had done is we moved a lot of the salary and fringes expenses for the sheriff, the detention center, communications, and emergency management over into that grant fund, the special revenue fund for this grant. So we're going to be under budget by that $7.2 million in the general fund. This item reduces all those budgets and then creates a transfer to a housing fund for the $7,188,564. And as I said before, when you combine it with the item you just did, that comes up with your $9 million that you committed toward the Bowsertown Woda Cooper project.
Gotcha.
So we're asking to adopt the budget amendment.
Motion to approve the budget amendment.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Tobin to approve the amendment. This is seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Mr. Chairman, next on the agenda is the public hearing for the manager's proposed 2023 budget. Before we go to the public hearing, a couple of things. I'm going to get Dave to go. We gave you a change list. There's some changes. No net effect changes are moving, for the most part, moving things around to different accounts, but they are different than what we outlined to you because of the way we had to do things. And so he needs to run through those real quickly with you. And then he's going to go through about 4 things that we did in the budget ordinance. You all are going to look at down at item 8. There's going to be a change in your schedule to go to 1 meeting a month instead of 2. That's going to create some time lags. And these 4 or 5 things that Dave will go through with you will give me a little bit more flexibility to do things because we may have to move faster than your meeting schedule moves. And so some of the limits on what I can do need to be increased a little bit to cover for that. And so we'll go through that in just a second. The other thing is we had a request that came in last week. It was obviously after the budget workshop, after all of our deadlines, for a 2-cent tax increase to the Frisco Fire District. And it is not included in the budget. We hadn't discussed it. It's not in anything. I sent the fire chief back a letter and told him how it's normally done, when they need to request it. And basically said, you need to come back next year. You need to bring us some information that you got some public support down there as well. I copied you all in on the email. I have not heard back from him, and he's not out here tonight. So there's been no public comment about that. So I must assume then fine, they got it and we'll move on. So that will not be in the budget that you have.
Weren't they asking for that so they could improve their facility?
You know, to build a new fire station.
Yeah, but Jim, typically what we do, and we've done that in the past, we've asked them to run that by their district.
Yeah.
And get their blessing before they actually came back to us. We've done that in Collington. We've done it in several other
Did it in
places.
Buxton.
Yeah, we did it in Buxton.
Wade and Salvo.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're basically asking them to follow the same procedure that the other fire stations
Your
did.
response was very clear.
Yeah, so, okay. If you choose after the public hearing to approve the budget tonight, you're also going to be approving, usually we don't have all this in the first budget, but you're going to have the capital improvement fund, the water fund, the sanitation fund, all of our funds that we have are a part of this budget. And so you'll be approving everything tonight. We won't have to come back in July or August to do the CIP like we normally do. That'll all be done now. And we're also going to be doing, these aren't financial things, but the other things that we talked about in our workshop, I guess you all approved them then, but just to be sure, we'll lump them in, the changing the merit pay to a bonus system, changing the 3 personal leave days, eliminating the paid school day, flex hours, those things that we talked about and you all said, yes, move forward with those. If you pass the budget or not, the cost of all that's included. And so when you approve it, you're telling us, yes, you have the go ahead to implement those things at the new budget year. What else, Dave, besides the change, do we need to add before we have the public hearing?
Just that you're adopting the budget ordinance that was in the manager's budget plus this list. And this list is just corrections or decisions that Sally and I made since the last meeting. Just the first one as an example, the transfer to the stormwater fund, we discussed it, and the stormwater fund can't be a special revenue fund. It has to be a sub-fund of the general fund. It's every one of these items is a correction like that. In the capital, the only big one is the lights that were added behind the First Flight schools. I had in the capital project fund, and it needs to be in the school capital projects fund.
I was just going to ask about that one. It appeared to be just a clarification, but I wasn't totally sure.
Just changing where the transfer's going to.
Right. Do you want to talk about the budget ordinance changes down at the bottom?
All right. And as Bobby said, these are all in mind of having one meeting a month and trying to decide what we could run into and to avoid problems or issues. Right now, the manager can move up to $25,000 between departments and has to report to the board at the next meeting. We'd ask you to change that from 25 to 50. Human services is the budget ordinance says it's one department. So all the health, all the social services, this would add veterans and mental health to that. So if utilities went over at the end of June, the manager could fix that budget. Right now, the manager can execute feasibility engineering or architectural contracts that are 25 or less. I mean, realistically, 50 or less, $50,000 is not a large architectural contract anymore. And then movements within a construction contract, the manager was limited to 25,000. This would change that to 50.
Makes sense.
So again, as we did those clerical changes at the top and those changes he just outlined in the budget ordinance are a part of what you all are going to be asked to act on later when we finish this public hearing. Any questions about any of that from anyone?
No, it makes sense, Bobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
With all that said, now's the time that's been set aside for the public hearing on the fiscal year 2023 budget. If anyone would like to speak to that issue, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you when I do come to the podium. State your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. Again, I have no one signed up for that. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to that issue? I see no hands here. Is there anyone in Buxton that would like to speak to that issue?
No comment from Buxton.
Mr. Chairman, with that, we would close the public hearing and then it's before the board for questions or for action. And you have the option if you choose not to adopt tonight. We have to adopt it before the end of June, but it's ready to go, absent any questions that you have.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move motion to approve the manager's budget with the changes to the manager's budget as presented.
All right, so motion on the floor by Commissioner House. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Tobin. The floor is open for additional comments concerning the budget.
Good work.
Yep. Hearing none, then those in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Great work, Bobby.
Thank you. And again, I appreciate the accolades, but I'll tell you that Dave and Sally and his
Yeah.
team are
Yeah.
critical and
Yep.
I got to make the decisions, but they're doing the work. So we've got a good team and appreciate all their hard work. With that, we would move down to item 6 on the agenda. That's a grant application for Miss Katie for the Hatteras Inlet dredging. And Barton's here to make that presentation.
Hey, Barton.
Good evening, Bart.
How's it going?
Good.
So the first item I have is the shallow draft application to allow the Miss Katie to operate in Hatteras Inlet. We will be requesting $600,000 in matching state funds and providing $200,000 ourselves. I did put a note in the staff summary. We are going to be holding back 50,000 to send to the Army Corps so we can have them come in and dredge and supplement, especially this fall. Or if it gets so shallow, we can only get the Merit sidecaster in there. So the first item, I just need you all to authorize the submission of a grant application and adopt the resolution to sponsor the Miss Katie Hatteras Inlet project.
I'll make that motion to authorize the submission of a grant app and adopt a resolution to sponsor the Miss Katie and relative to the Hatteras Inlet dredging project.
Second. Thank you, Commissioner Couch, for that motion. There's a second by the Vice Chairman and Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And then the next item I have is the South Ferry Channel corridor expansion. This is an item you all approved for me to apply for a few meetings ago. We will be getting a contract in place to survey, get our cultural resource survey, which is what the agencies require, and then also some permitting to allow both the Army Corps dredges and eventually the Miss Katie to dredge where the current route is that the boaters are taking out. Thankfully, it looks like the route held up during this nor'easter. They were able to get out over the weekend. The Coast Guard told me today that it looked good. So, but again, can't guarantee that for the future. So we will need a permit to be able to dredge that in the future. So just asking you all to approve the budget amendment and authorize the county manager to enter into the contract, enter into contract with Coastal Protection Engineering.
So move.
Okay. Motion's been made by the Vice Chairman.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner House and Tobin, I believe.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Good work, Barton.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, item 8 on the agenda is a revised schedule of meeting dates for the rest of the year. In our workshop, we talked about going to a 1 meeting a month schedule because our meetings we're coming in to meet. Sometimes we really don't have a lot to do. And so you all said move forward with that. Before you is the schedule that was proposed then, and basically it moves everything to 9 o'clock in the morning meetings once a month. I know that there has been some concern about the July 18th meeting and maybe
Yeah, we
making
need
that a 5 o'clock
make that
meeting.
a 5 o'clock. if
But
we
after
could.
that, change the schedule where the rest of them are at 9 a.m. For the 2023, we'll come back at our December organization meeting and set the meeting schedule for the coming year like we normally do. And that will then reflect the same 9 o'clock once every month meeting schedule going forward as well. And so with that, you all would need to approve this meeting schedule amended to say that the July 18th meeting would be at 5 o'clock and the rest of this would follow. And then Cheryl can send out the notices and do things she's got to do to make that official.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Pleasure of the board.
So move.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman to approve the amended revised meeting schedule. And it's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Chairman, items 9 and 10 are affordable housing update. Affordable housing, as you can tell, is moving incredibly slow, but not for lack of work or lack of effort. We have, for the last 2 weeks at least, and for several weeks before that, it's pretty much all that I've done on my plate is try to work through these things. At our last meeting, we thought we were at a point where we would have a contract, and you had authorized me to go ahead and sign it to get the pre-development part of the coastal housing plan moving forward. And we did that. We got the agreement as between us ironed out and the details of that prepared to go, and had been working with the state for, I don't know, some number of weeks. Dave and I have been working on for over 90 days, trying to figure out how we're going to get the money. What's the criteria? Can we get the contract we have to sign? We need to share that with our partners so they know what's going on. And we need to find out what the regulations are and all that. As Dave and I got deeper into it, it's kind of like squeezing a balloon. Every time we solve one issue, another one popped up. when that began occurring, we brought in Coastal Affordable Housing, shared the documents that we had from the state with them, shared the issues that had come up with them, with the hopes that they could help us and we could help them find solutions. We've had multiple meetings with the state of North Carolina, their attorneys. We've had conference calls where Coastal Affordable Housing's attorney and I, school of government, multiple officials there, have tried to work through this. And where we are right now is we don't know the answers yet. And the state can't tell us the answers to give us guidance. We're having some issues because this is federal money that was given to the state, and the state's then giving the money to us, and then we're giving the money to Coastal Affordable Housing. And the question is, what are the procurement rules that apply in that situation? We were following procurement procedures that were set in the statute that gave us the money. However, they don't jive with the federal procurement statutes. And so you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And quite frankly, we're not sure if there's a way to do exactly what we were trying to do and what the state intended us for to do if we have to follow those federal guidelines. And so there's some other lawyers, a large firm that works for Coastal Affordable Housing is looking at that issue. The attorneys at Office of Management and Budget are looking at that issue, trying to find solutions to implement the legislature's will, and that was to use this money with a private partner to build affordable housing. And so we don't know where that's going yet. Hopefully we can get it resolved. Hopefully we'll hear back. We had hoped to hear at the end of last week. We don't have any, as of tonight, I don't know any more than I did then on what a solution is, but I can tell you everybody's working at it. I've been through the statute multiple times trying to find definitions, loopholes, whatever that would define a way to make this work. And I can just tell you, every time you think you got something, it triggers some other provision in some other obscure part of the statute that says, oh, wait, you got to do this too. And
Is it the federal statute that it's triggering, basically?
yes.
Yeah.
Because frankly, the feds gave the money, all this money went out nationwide, and there was no thought that everything that you're spending money on isn't the same.
Right.
And the way you do everything isn't the same.
Right.
And yet the rules are the same for every project. And so what we're going through is, we were told by the state, is not unique to us. This is what's happening
Right.
throughout the country with affordable housing, because affordable housing, the way it's done, doesn't fit neatly in the federal guidelines, and there's not much wiggle room in the federal guidelines
It's
to make it
regarding the
fit.
bidding process. Is it not a competitive bidding process
Right.
rather
So,
than?
so the statute said when we did this, do an RFQ and pick a private partner. Well, that's what we did.
Right.
But that wasn't the bid. That wasn't a procurement. That was done pursuant to that statute.
Right.
Potentially that all by itself might meet the federal guideline to get us there. But if Coastal Affordable Housing is deemed a recipient too, because we're going to give the money to them, then their next step is they've got to follow those federal guidelines, which require some level of bidding. Well, and you can't bid on yourself. And so it's just creating a number of problems where you can't have almost a private partner relationship like the statute says if you're going to follow the federal procurement rules.
Would it have required that these guys go out to bid, and theoretically Robbie and Aaron are competing to bid against other firms while their own?
We don't know, but I can tell you that
It's puzzling,
it's
Judge.
not
Yeah.
it's not a problem that's unique to them.
Right.
If we would have chosen any of the people that we got RFQs from, we would be in the same place with the same issues and the same problems trying to sort through them. And so I don't know where this is leading. I know how anxious you are to get going. You all have made it abundantly clear to me, let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it done. But this isn't something we can control. The things that we can control, we've done, and we're ready. And, you know, I don't know where this is going to go. And we'll just, over the next few days, hopefully get some clarifications and some answers that, you know, for us, we either need to say, here's how you do it, go ahead, or it can't be done, stop and start over again and do it like this. But one way or the other, we need to come to an answer so that we can move forward and use this money. And so no action tonight, just to bring you up to speed. Sure.
So there are states that have done the same thing that we did with our ARP money, that gave our ARP money to the sheriff's department, which opened up the money that we funded the sheriff's department with to fund the project. There are states
Yeah,
that took,
Pennsylvania did that.
Pennsylvania took the entire amount of money that they got from the federal government and funded a state level organization or several of them, and then took that money out of their budget and did it. So one of the solutions that our state, there's several hundred projects that are being affected the same way we are right now in our state. So there's two possible solutions that the state could do. The state could make an exception for Dare County, which in my opinion is probably unlikely, but it is possible. But the other one is to take all of the money that was given to the state, fund state law enforcement, or,
Do what we just did with the 7 million.
Yeah. and then that allows the state to distribute the money and not have to follow all the federal guidelines.
Right. It's then state money and not federal money. And then you just have to follow whatever the rules are that the state has.
So call your local legislature.
So,
This is why I love government accounting. This is how you do things, right, David?
uh,
The rest of the world,
I knew you'd appreciate it.
no, but government accounting?
and we've had discussions
Yeah.
along the lines of what Commissioner Tobin just said, and we've looked
Yeah.
at language exceptions, and there's some waiver language if you meet some other conditions, and we're looking at all that stuff. Again, we want it to move as quickly as anybody, but
I have confidence you're on it.
yeah, so just to
Yeah.
bring you up to speed. On the Water Cooper side, on that project, you all have seen, they were proposing to do 100 units. They're proposing to do about half of them in Bowsertown, the other half
Are
over
you
in Nags
moving
Head.
to item 10?
I am.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. And on those projects, I've spoken with a number of you, and you all had some concerns with the cost of the real estate that they're using to build the Nags Head project on. And I've shared those concerns with Woda Cooper. I got something from them today that they had basically gave you all some comps, or gave me some comps that said, this isn't out of line or whatever, but nonetheless, it's very expensive property. And
If I can just comment, Bobby, giving us comps to verify the market relative price of the property is interesting, but I could have found comps on beachfront that would have been $1.5 million an acre or $2 million an acre.
Right.
That would have been
Well-
comps and
Right.
confirmed
That's
it's
right.
$2 million.
Yeah.
Does that persuade us to build affordable housing on $2 million
But
an
you
acre
made
property?
the point,
Commercial property.
you made the point I was just coming to. So in order to move that project forward, so we're not spinning wheels too, I'd proposed, and I've talked with the chairman about this a little bit, that we separate those two projects. There's no controversy about the Bowsertown project. We'd like to do 50 units there, or 60 or 40, whatever we can get on that site, and move on. And so there's no reason why we couldn't move forward with Woda Cooper on Bowsertown, and then sit down with them and look at land and try to figure out where they can buy land at a more affordable price. Or you all find that there is not land that we can obtain for whatever reason that's viable, and that is the price we have to do. But one way or another, resolve the cost issue so that we get off of dead sitting still and move forward with those other units too.
Well, the critical item is, as you said, uncoupling the two projects and moving forward with
Right.
Bowsertown,
Right,
which property price is zero.
Zero.
right, exactly. So
I like that idea. Let's do that.
if you want me to proceed in that direction, then I need you all to, somebody make a motion and tell me to move forward that way.
I make the motion that you move forward that way and uncouple the projects and accelerate Bowsertown. Second.
All right, super. Thank you, Commissioner Ross, for that motion. It's been seconded by Vice Chairman Odom, and I believe Bateman as well. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is your consent agenda. On the consent agenda, you have the approval of the minutes, you have the Public Works bulk fuel, you have the Register of Deeds Y format printer scanner, a tax collector's report, and the Dominion Energy easement.
Okay? And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Motion to approve as
Okay.
presented.
Motion by Commissioner Ross to approve as presented. Is there a second? I'll second it. Seconded by Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Item 12 is your board appointments, and we have a number of them tonight. First, we have the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. The terms of Marcia Ribner Caddy, Jennifer Alexander, Stephen Westcott, Tim and Melinda Magowski expire in June. The council recommends that each of their appointment for another term.
Move to reappoint.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to reappoint. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Mans Harbor Community Center Board. The terms of Clyde Guard and Bonnie Sawyer expire in June, and they would both like to be reappointed.
Motion to reappoint.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Tobin to reappoint. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by the vice chair. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Hatteras Community Center Board. The terms of Laura Young and Ron Whitaker expire in June, and they are both recommended for reappointment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Couch. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Rodanthe Wave Salvo Community Center. The term of Cheryl Blankenship expires, and she is recommended for reappointment.
Motion to reappoint.
There's a motion by Commissioner Bateman with the
Second.
reappointment. It's been seconded by Commissioner Couch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Commission for Working Watermen. The terms of Amanda Hooper Walters and Joe Van Dyke expire, and each is recommended for reappointment.
Move to reappoint.
Motion on the floor by Commissioner House to reappoint, seconded by
I'll second it.
Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion?
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
Just clarifying, I noticed Amanda Hooper Walters' name here. Her name appears later as Amanda Hooper, and I wanted to make sure it's the same person.
Same one.
Same one.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Dare County Waterways Commission. The terms of Danny Couch, Ernie Foster, Natalie Perry Kavanaugh, and Steve Coulter expire. Each are recommended for reappointment.
Move to reappoint.
Motion on the floor by the vice chairman to reappoint. It's been seconded by
Second.
Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Dare County Transportation Advisory Board. The terms of Brandy Bohannon, Chuck Lysette, Nessie Seiler, Alex Chandler, and Kenny Key all expire. Kenny Key does not wish to be reappointed. The others are recommended for reappointment.
Motion to reappoint all except for Kenny Key.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tobin. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And just for informational purposes, Transportation Advisory Board does not have a recommendation at the moment to fill that expired term, but they will.
It looks like a large board though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Next is the Veteran Center Advisory Board. And the terms of Forrest Paddock, Marcy Shoemaker, James Kenner, and Danny Couch all expire. Each would like to be reappointed. There are two other vacancies, but they have no applications.
Motion to reappoint.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Bateman to
Second.
reappoint. It's been seconded by Commissioner Couch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then the Roanoke Island Community Center, the terms of Lynette Ford and Daniel Selby expired next month. Each would like to be reappointed, and are vacancies on that board, which will be brought to you at a later date.
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Move to reappoint Ms. Ford and Mr. Selby.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Couch. It's been seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Your upcoming boards and appointments in June, you have the Pheasant Center Advisory Board with 5 terms, the Library Board with 1 term, the Roanoke Island Community Center Board with 3 terms, the Transportation Advisory Board with 5 terms, the Waterways Commission with 4 terms. In July, you have the Airport Authority with 2 terms, the East Lake Community Center Board with 2 terms, the Game and Wildlife Commission with 3 terms, the Library Board for the East Albemarle region with 1 term, the Parks and Rec Advisory Council with 1 term, and the Juan Cheese Community Center Board with 2 terms expiring. And that, Mr. Chairman, would be your agenda.
Thank you, County Manager. That brings us to item 13, which is Commissioner's business and County Manager's business. Mr. Tobin, would you kick that off this evening?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Bobby and I took a ride down to Rodanthe and looked at some of the damage that occurred during our wonderful Northeaster that we had. And there's a significant amount of damage down there. They lost a lot of beach. A couple more houses are in definite peril, at least a couple. I'd say probably 5, wouldn't you, Bobby?
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll be able to get those stabilized and what have you. But I really, really hope that somehow the state and the insurance companies could come to some solution where we can get those houses paid for before they fall into the ocean and make a mess. Also, for the Miss Katie, not a lot of news. They're working on doing the replacement of those 2-day fuel tanks that failed the test. And they did revise the schedule. The delivery date, which means when the Miss Katie will be turned over to us, which is still down there on the Gulf Coast, is now July 10th. So all these little things are starting to add up and push that delivery date back a little bit. But it takes about 2 weeks to get here once it's delivered. So somewhere around 1st of August it stands right now.
Gotcha.
That's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner Tobin. You know, somehow, some way, the word needs to get, and I don't know if it's our place to do so, to those homeowners that are in peril. In the old days, you could apply to, if you're with a repetitive program, which is underwritten by FEMA, the flood insurance, then now there's independents out there that'll write flood. The old days, you could apply as a homeowner to have your home, ask the carrier to move your home back. You do the math. A whole lot cheaper to have an insurance company agree to move your home, pick your home up and move it further back than it would be to replace the whole structure. So somehow, some way, that word needs to get to some of those homeowners that are in peril and have them ask the question. Doesn't hurt to ask.
And to follow up on that, Mr. Chairman, even to have those properties demolished, they're capable contractors. When you look at what's being paid out on a house for what the cost of actually demolishing it and getting it out of there, it's common sense type stuff.
Yeah, guys, I'm just sitting here listening, and I was reading about the houses that fell in. I'm not well versed, but what you, Mr. Chairman, just said, and what you, Commissioner Couch, just said, makes incredibly good sense to me. I'm puzzled with why that hasn't occurred to the powers that be.
I don't profess to
Same
know
guys that do the
anything
government accounting.
more than you about insurance, but what we've been told is that the FEMA program no longer offers either used to they had a buyout.
They had a
provision,
buyout, right.
And used to they had a provision to move a repetitively damaged home to move
Right.
it on the lot. And my understanding is they don't offer that any longer. And so if that insurance exists in the private market, then it would be a private market cost for
Right.
the owner, but it's not FEMA any longer.
And that's what I would suggest to anybody listening that's a homeowner that's in peril down there, that they at least reach out. If they're not insured from the federal program with FEMA that, and they've got private coverage, then they ought to ask the question, yes. You know.
Well, and there was two very hot, the New York Times and the Washington Post were both on site down there. So hopefully the press will help move that conversation forward. And the North Carolina Department of Insurance has been monitoring this. But I don't, because this is a problem with all four coasts, not just the East Coast, but the West and the Great Lakes and Gulf Coast as well. I think, not being an insurance professional, I mean, you are and others, that's probably where their heartburn comes from, is that this could be a colossal thing to have to deal
Yeah,
with from a
absolutely. But,
financial standpoint.
but the other side of that coin, Commissioner Council, talk about colossal cost. Remember Louisiana?
Absolutely.
And down in the bayou? Nobody had flood insurance, but the feds paid for it. You remember that?
Yep.
So, you know, I just throw that out for food for thought.
Well, and when we were down there, the Knights and Rodanthe house, I mean, it's a few more years, it's gonna be eroded too also.
Right.
Which, you know, it's been moved once.
Right.
Guys, on the scale of what this federal government spends, this is grains of sand, guys.
Yeah.
These are a few grains of salt.
Absolutely.
But it's not just acute to Rodanthe, Wave, and Salvo. You can go to Avon and Buxton as well. So these are not isolated pockets. This is almost our entire oceanfront, the shoreline.
Well, you know, the other side of that coin too is, I understand, I don't have, it's not factual, but I do have some very good research in that these two homes, one was purchased last July and one was purchased last August.
What?
Yep.
That's not possible.
Yeah.
Read the New York Times story.
Read the story.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you know, be careful what you purchase. Especially in those vulnerable places.
just to reinforce my comment about the grains of sand, Danny, if the federal government didn't just reimburse the cost of these, if they reimbursed the cost of every structure that exists in Dare County, every one, that's just over $16 billion, County Manager?
Yep.
That's less than half of what was approved by the House in about 15 minutes to send to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Every single structure in all of Dare County, not just the 10 or 12 or 15 homes on the ocean front. So I repeat, grains of sand.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. Appreciate it. Commissioner Ross.
Oh, me again.
Yes, sir.
Floor is yours again.
Okay. First, I just wanted to call out, I got an email and I hadn't thought about these folks in a while, but I wanted to call out and give credit to Room in the Inn. Room in the Inn does an amazing service for those less fortunate and struggling with homelessness during the winter. And in the email, they explained that now we're entering the warmer season. They will be closing until the fall when we get back into cold weather. But they provided over 1,700 person nights in the various locations that rotate Room in the Inn to provide shelter, clothing, and help people get back on their feet. So I just wanted to give a call out to Room in the Inn for an incredibly valuable service to those most in need in our community. I saw another note, and Mr. Chairman, you may have spotted this or others. College of the Albemarle is really, really looking for a full-time welding instructor for the fall semester. I just wanted to call that out. If anyone is watching or listening to our meeting and have any contacts or knowledge of welding instructors or potential instructors, please get in touch with COA. They really do need that.
That's critical too.
It is.
Because
it
that's a
is.
huge program.
That's why I wanted to call it out. I know how important that is. And lastly, this is really a big deal. We are sending off approximately 30 athletes in the Special Olympics Games to Raleigh that will take place June 3rd, 4th, and 5th, spearheaded by our own Sandy Pace and the Virginia Tillett Community Center folks, and there will be a send-off the day before on June the 2nd at 10 a.m. That's a Thursday at 10 a.m. to wish these 30 athletes much success and have a terrific time in track, basketball, swimming, and bowling.
What time was that again?
10 a.m., June the 2nd. I will be there, and
Is it gonna be?
yes, it is at the Virginia Tillett Center. If you can make it, the kids, they're just remarkable, and it's well worth the effort. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Commissioner House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing up is Marine Fisheries Commission will meet this month in New Bern. I'm sorry, not New Bern, Beaufort, on the 25th and 26th. I am hopefully planning on being there if my schedule will allow me to present the two resolutions that we proposed for the striped bass.
Steve, are we still just bumping our heads? I know you're giving this incredible effort.
Mhm.
I just feel like you're putting tons of energy into it, and it's just
I'm
like bumping your head into a wall.
yeah, I am making some headway though.
Well, good,
But
I'm actually glad to hear that.
We're working a few different angles. Also, if you remember the shrimp amendment 2, that I did go down and talk with them at the last commission meeting. Because if you remember, they were trying to eliminate shrimping in our waters here. That proclamation actually goes into effect yesterday, and the proclamation is as stated as the amended proclamation they voted on back in that time. So our waters around Roanoke Island will still be available for shrimping. So I wanted to put that out there.
Wow, that's a plus.
That's a big plus.
That's
How
a big
about,
plus.
how about the Pamlico Sound?
Yes.
Okay.
Majority of the Pamlico Sound is still open. There are certain parts of the Pamlico Sound that will not be, mainly those areas that have been designated like for blue crab spawning and stuff. Those areas have been taken away from shrimp trawling.
Okay. So it doesn't
But-
affect Core Sound and all those
No,
areas?
no. Well, the Carolina Yacht Basin and the Bogue Sound and its tributaries, except for the Intercoastal Waterway, will be prohibited for trawling. And also prohibit trawling all crab spawning sanctuaries and statewide recreational cast net, creel limit 48 quarts heads or 30 quarts heads off. Also, I wanted to acknowledge in 1962, President Kennedy signed into law the Law Enforcement Memorial Day, which is held on May 15th, which was yesterday. I wanted to give a special consideration from a local law enforcement officer who died on May 15th in 2009, Sergeant Earl Murray. So I wanted to make sure that he was present in our memories, and also for all of our law enforcement that have passed. Yesterday was a day of appreciation for them, of their dedicated service and their sacrifice to our nation. As stated, we went down to the Ferry Division for the 75th anniversary. Great presentation by all the speakers, including our county manager. And it was actually a really nice, small group, but really nice dedicated service, and also the christening of the new passenger vessel, which was really a nice boat.
Take a ride?
No, they were going to give us a ride, but we had to get back here, so we couldn't go out. But the amazing thing about it is I was talking to the captain, and cruising speed, 35 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's pretty fast on a big boat like that. And I even joked with him. I said, well, how many skiers can you pull? He said, well, I can pull quite a few, but they're going to be drenched because this thing throws out a rooster tail.
It's hard to troll off the back of it too, going
I
35.
bet.
Be another Cypress Gardens where they used to tow about 30 skiers behind them.
Exactly. And for our day in history, President Johnson became the first American president to be impeached on March 2nd and 3rd of 1868, when the House formally adopted the Articles of Impeachment and forwarded them to the United States Senate for adjudication. The trial in the Senate began on March 5th by Chief Justice Salmon Chase, and on May 16th, 1868, the Senate did not convict Johnson on one of the articles with a 35-19 vote in favor of conviction, falling one vote short of the necessary 2/3 majority. To end on a lighter note, one of our favorite pieces of video that we get to see at our evening meetings,
I
We
like this
have-
part,
we have a
my
2-for-1.
my favorite movie.
Twofer.
Pet of the week, meet the sisters, Kanga and Rue.
Our pet of the week for this week is Kanga and Rue. These sisters are 7 months old. They are a bonded pair, so we would like it if they could go home together. They are good with kids and other animals, and would love nothing better than to snuggle in your lap. To adopt Kanga and Rue, or foster one of our other animals, you can come visit us Monday through Saturday at our shelter located in Manio. We are now in the height of kitten season. Come by to see these adoptable litters, along with a few more that are still not ready for adoption. For more information, visit our website at www.obxspca.com or visit our OBX SPCA Facebook page.
So if you have room in your heart and room in your house for two, Kanga and Rue would be a perfect fit. And thanks, and let's give them a forever home together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks,
Steve,
Steve.
I've got a little something to add to that.
Okay.
There was a disturbing post on Facebook the other day. Sven and Heather, who operate the skydiving plane,
Mhm.
they were coming across the bridge at Pirates Cove. And all of a sudden Sven stopped the car. She was like, "What are you doing?" She goes, I think I saw a kitten back there. And he got out and ran back, and sure enough, got a little tiny kitten that somebody tried to throw overboard.
Oh, God.
And you know, Bridger, the state diver that was inspecting the Mans Harbor Bridge, rescued a kitten that had been thrown overboard of the Mans Harbor Bridge. I just want to say to all the people out there doing that, get a life. And it's a short drive down to the SPCA, and you can take those kittens down there, and there's lots of people who actually have love in their heart for animals.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, they'll accept any kitten
Yeah,
like that
low
or any
maintenance
puppy like
animals,
that,
take it
no
home.
questions asked. Let's much rather give them a chance at a very loving life than to just abandon them or just throw them away on the side of a road.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
Unbelievable. With these
I
two,
can't comment because we're in general company, so I will not comment.
I will add one thing since we are talking about SPCA. They are definitely looking for donations of wet food for dogs and cats. So if you've got some wet food laying around that you're not using, or you've got too much for your pet, or if you want to go to the grocery store and pick up some, they're in desperate need of wet food.
That's like comes in cans?
Mhm. And they're in desperate need of that. So thank you.
thanks, Steve. A little, best way to remember these two little kittens is kangaroo.
Exactly.
The word, remember the word kangaroo.
There you go. There you go.
Vice Chairman, you're up on deck.
Pootie
Two of them.
Just want to say, with regard, how happy I was to be able to participate in the Virginia Tillett Community Center dedication on Thursday. That was a really good event, obviously well attended, and it was just a awfully appropriate thing to do. And I was glad to be able to participate in that. On Friday, the executive committee from CSI, including Mr. Rolf Blizzard, Malcolm Fearing, and myself, had a luncheon with Chancellor Philip Rogers, Interim Provost Grant Hayes, and Chief of Staff Chris Locklear at the chancellor's home. And we basically were discussing issues relative to the path forward for CSI. That included student housing, potentially on the CSI campus, as that seems now to be the most appropriate place for that to go, which was in fact in the initial drawings for CSI. So we're seeing how we can try to make that happen, as well as discussing potential growth of the institute and how we make that happen. It was a good meeting, and I was happy to participate in that. So that's just sort of an update, and that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. That's good news. I hope ECU will step up to the plate there, and it'd be fantastic. Commissioner Baker?
Sir. Our chairman was not in town Saturday the other week, so I had to go out and do the welcoming for the Outer Banks Rod Custom Show. Great event. Guys, there was so many nice cars there, and it just brought back memories of my youth. Yeah.
Sitting in the back of the patrol car.
How old?
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
They were all.
So what
And
your cars
You
would
could
be
just,
related
if you
to?
could just afford one of them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, but they were represented from 30 states, which is fantastic. So they did what they did for Dare County. They brought people here. The furthest one to the north was from Quebec, Canada. And I think out west they had Missouri, but they had all just great. Alabama, a lot of people there. We had a food truck there, and we did very well. I was really pleased with the event. We did well at the restaurant, so it was a good attraction for us. And I hope I represented you well
I'm sure
with
you
my
did.
opening remarks. The Special Olympics, so evidently somebody must have been sick there too. They called me up and asked me, would I give out medals for the athletes? I have not had such a good time in a long time. It's like Rob said, these guys are serious. I mean, they were serious about their events, and some of them were really, really good. I was impressed. So, Rob, I share with your passion for that, those Olympics, and I'm going to be there to see those guys off. I called Sandy Pace and I said, you got another supporter big time, because it's just a great event. I was touched by that.
You see and hear the dark side of some in our community, and then you see this side, and it just says, there's hope here, folks. There's hope.
They're remarkable human beings.
Oh,
My
God,
gosh.
I'm telling you, it'll move you. It will
Yeah, it
move
was
you.
just a great time. Back to the storm and the houses going in. I talked to Dave Hallis just a little bit this morning. He said that the debris field is 20 miles long from those houses. 20 miles. That's crazy, y'all.
And where the houses went in, there's no debris at all. Beach
Yeah.
is totally clean.
So I don't
So
know. I
strange.
don't know what the answer is. It's crazy how that just. He also said he had special teams coming in from other areas. I think he said he had bulldozers and all kinds of stuff, trying to clean up the areas that on the Park Service that were damaged by the sand and all the storm. I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cal?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just a couple of things. The channel was good for the Hatters Village Outdoor Open. We were a little sensitive to the press that's gone out about what bad shape it was in, but fortunately, the powers that be, Army Corps, the state, this board, were able to keep that channel open. It was not the problem was not the channel, and it was a successful tournament, but the problem was actually the weather. So, but I was down there a couple of days on other business, but it was a perfect timing to see the boats coming in. So there was a lot of activity. I'm just glad that all the nail biting and sitting on their hands waiting for this to come in, hopefully that it was problem free, was successful. So it was a good tournament. We can't help the weather, but we can, keeping this channel open, keep the bad press down. So there's a remedy for bad press, and that's go ahead and do proactive solutions. Second thing, The Barton and Withers Ravenel, our Barton Grover and Withers Ravenel have been heading up the grant money that was given to study resiliency, stormwater management, to formulate how we're going to deal with it going forward. But it got a real test this past week. There was a lot of water moving in. You take Old Lighthouse Road as an example. I mean, that's in my neighborhood. So there was an impromptu. Well, first the state went down there and cleaned out the ditches. That was at the end of April. They didn't get a chance to get around to hitting the pipe ends, but there was a lot of water moving through there. And the standing water got out of the ocean side over there where our beach nourishment zone is. The water got out of there pretty quick. As a matter of fact, it got out of there too quick because 2 drains have collapsed, but that's just common construction. But, once a couple of pipe ends were cleared out, the water that had dammed up in there really began draining. That was quite a thing to see, despite all the problems that we had up at Pea Island and Merlot. The Old Lighthouse Road was a success story. So hopefully, and I'm on that committee, so hopefully I'll have some good reports to make going forward. It was a good study. We covered a lot of things. There's a lot of good people on that committee looking into stormwater management, but it's one step at a time. You can't just snap your fingers and go out and do things. So, but I was glad to see that we've advanced our knowledge of how to deal with stormwater there on the island here. Hopefully this can be the kind of thing that we can transfer countywide, because we deal with water. We're 74% water. And sometimes we're held in check by our capabilities. And you can have all the engineering in the world, but it takes money to institute solutions. But we're at least par with the curve. We'll see what happens going forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Couch. Vice Chairman?
Yeah, just a question, Dorothy. I know that Charlie's staying pretty busy these days, but we were talking about the Special Olympics send-off on the 2nd. If he's not tied up, it would be good to get some video of that, so he's available. It may already be on your schedule.
I believe it is.
Okay.
I know that
Good.
I know they're going to, one of the participants that's going
Bowling.
to the bowling, they're doing a feature on her. I don't know
Private
about.
jet.
Let's
Get lessons.
connect and make sure.
Gotcha.
That's-
Okay.
But I know
yeah.
there
I think it'd
is,
be good to have
I
that.
know they're planning on doing the bowling. She's in like the national,
Yes.
so that, I know they're planning a
She's
feature
gonna
for
get a
that, but
trip
let's
in
touch
her own
base and
Lear
make
jet.
sure.
Okay, thank you.
Good deal. All right, County Manager.
Yes, sir, a couple things. Down in Hatters, across from the Fedson Center, we have a baseball field. It's called Burris Field, and it's a second baseball facility down there that we have. Kind of a long story. A number of years ago, I'm talking about 10, they came to us and wanted to build a new concession stand and storage and bathrooms and all that there. And it was, I don't know, $59,000 or $60,000. And we didn't do it because across the street, we have the Pheasant Center Field that has a concession stand and the press box and all those things. And we couldn't understand why we needed to have 2 facilities when we had one that wasn't fully utilized at that time. The league that played on the Burris Field said, well, we'd like to have it in our separate field, because then we don't have to schedule around Parks and Rec and all that kind of stuff. And so that's fine. And we'll take care of it ourselves if you'll allow us to do it. And we said, if you all want to do that, they said, we have volunteers and we have donations and we'll take care of it. And so the board said, okay, go forward. And this is before, I think, any of you, I don't know, Chairman Woodard may have been on the board then. And the board said, sure, let's go with it. So we let them go. Well, over time, they did some work and then it started in spurts and fits, but it never got completed. About a year ago, I told our buildings and grounds to go take a look at it, and either let's get it taken down or let's get them to finish it, because it's becoming an eyesore, it's becoming dangerous and those kind of things, and they're not making any progress on it. Got word back, please don't tear it down, please stop, we got it, we're going to go forward, we're going to do it, and we've got donations and we'll make it all work. And we said, fine, all we want to do is get it buttoned up and get it done. So about, I don't know how long, Danny, month.
Month and a,
Yeah,
month and a
it's been a
half,
month.
Yeah.
6 weeks, yeah.
They don't have the volunteers and they don't have the materials, and we've got this half-finished concession stand there and press box and storage and bathrooms and all that sort of thing. And they came to me and said, will you please finish it? And I said, well, how much are we talking about doing it? Well, they were talking, I don't know, $20,000 or something. I said, well, okay, get me some numbers and I'll talk to you about it. Well, it comes back, it's like $69,000.
That's what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah. And so I said, well, wow, guys, I said, that's not what we did. Well, I know, different regime then, Danny has talked to some of the parents down there. The long and the short of all this is we're at a point now where that thing is there. It needs to be finished somehow. It's likely not going to be finished by them. We've got money in our contingency that we could do it with. I could have Keith either do it or get it hired out to be done and get it buttoned up, get it completed, get it like it needed to be, make sure it's to code, all the things that need to be done and do it. But I was uncomfortable going forward because a previous board had basically said, no, don't do what I'm about to ask you to do. And that is, let's move forward with this project. Again, our options are either do it or not. And if we're not going to do it, we need to take down all the stuff that they have already done because it's sitting out there in the weather and it isn't going to get done. And so we're kind of between a rock and a hard place, and we've been pushed into a corner, not of our own doing. But on the other hand, it needs to be done. So with all that said, I'm recommending that we go forward with it, but I need your approval for me to use the contingency to do that with.
What was the demolition cost on it?
I don't know.
Because that would be an offset.
I would just ask that we put a not to exceed, because
Yeah.
it sounds like this thing has no bottom.
Well-
Every time you talk, it just gets
Well,
deeper.
what I would do is I would take it out of their hands. I'd give it to Keith, and then we would take care of it. And we would do the minimum we had to do to get it to code, get it finished.
All right.
Bobby, is the stuff that's there still viable? Will we just be adding on, or are we going to tear down what's there and start over?
I looked at it when we were down there, and when Commissioner House and I rode by it today, I was looking, and they've got tar paper on the exterior part, and there's some handicap ramps that need to be done to make it ADA compliant and some things like that. I don't know. I'm going to have somebody go down there and inspect what's being done. I don't know what's got to be done over to be sure it's all to
A
code.
concession stand and a press box for, what level of baseball playing is it? Like high school kids?
It's not high school, but
No, it's
multiple
middle
levels.
school and,
Middle school.
but in defense of what they've done, the demand is there. There's about 115 players. And so the kids are participating. When you go by there with the two events they've had, there's cars parked all up and down the side of the road.
Yeah. I'm just trying to envision a $70,000 concession stand.
Well, and
For middle school.
Bobby's
Yeah, it's
spot
not
on.
gonna
They got in trouble because they said, bring us some numbers. But, ADA requirements, you have to be insurable. And my understanding is that wasn't factored in. So that's where a lot of the big numbers come from.
And mind you, those are their numbers if they were going to hire it out.
Right.
And I don't know what I would want our staff to go in there and take a look at it.
I agree.
Bobby, whose field is it?
It's ours.
It's his ours.
I mean, if we had a program that had 115 kids in it and we needed a concession stand and we didn't have all this back history, we'd probably just go do it because we would need
Right.
to do something there. Now, I don't know what it would cost, but we would make that available.
So who runs the concession stand and where does the money go?
Just like we do at Kitty Hawk and our other leagues, the leagues run it, we make it available, and they use the money to help fund the leagues. And we provide baseballs, and I think we pay referees, and we do other things, but they buy uniforms, all that stuff.
So is this Babe Ruth?
I don't know if it's.
It's
the
not Babe
League,
Ruth
but-
anymore. It's actually Hatteras Island Youth Baseball League.
Okay.
But it's the same thing.
And the
Yeah.
second thing is it multi-purpose field? Could they play soccer there too?
They could, yes.
Are there lights there?
Or,
Yes.
yes.
Yep,
Okay. I say do it.
yep. We need to move forward
Yeah,
and get
just
it
do it.
done. We do it on our own.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, do you need a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion.
All right,
Second.
so it's been
Second.
motioned by Commissioner Bateman, seconded by Commissioner Couch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, last thing I have, a few minutes ago on the consent agenda, you all approved the Dominion Power easement, and that Dominion Power easement runs along Kitty Hawk Road right in front of Kitty Hawk Park, where we have our skate park and dog park and all that complex right there. It's about 85 feet long and 15 feet wide right beside the road. They need to turn now and go, they sent me another easement, turn and go down our driveway, essentially the length of the project. And the way they had it drawn was right down the middle of our road. And I said, no, we're not, you can't put it there. Rather than come back and take your time with it, what I would like to do is take Tim White, the Parks and Rec director, and Keith Sawyer, our buildings and ground maintenance guy, down there and get with Dominion Power and put it, if I don't have a problem putting it in there because they're going to be burying cables, but it needs to be in a place where it doesn't impact us and cause problems for us down the road. And we need to find that place. And so I guess I'm asking you all to allow us to move forward with that easement in a place that the three of us agree works for that site, rather than have to come back with maps and all that for you guys.
So move.
You need it in a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the vice chair has made the motion, it's been seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That's all I have, Mr.
Bobby, fill the board in case anybody else other than me gets a email and a phone call about the down fence at the tennis courts. And fill the board in as to why
Sure.
that's happened.
So we have a tennis courts at Rec Park in Kill Devil Hills. You all probably seen those before, and they obviously have fences all the way around them.
Yep.
At the request of the pickleball players, some time ago, we put screens on those, wind screens on those fences to allow them to play pickleball. That pickleball is light, and when the wind blows down there, it makes it hard for them to play. So we did that. We spec'd it out. We bought materials with fasteners on it that were supposed to break away in the wind so that the screen falls off of the post, the fasteners break, and the pole and the fence doesn't. Well, for whatever reason, I don't know whether the fasteners were defective or whether our poles were so old that they were weaker than the fasteners, but we had a storm several months ago that blew everything down in one side, and it's kind of in a pile laying in heat. And the windscreens didn't release. And so we've made a claim with our insurance, and they're working through all those issues to try to figure out who's at fault and so on. But the long and the short is it's still there and it hasn't been repaired. And some of you have gotten some emails about getting repairs. We've got it in the system to be repaired. We've ordered the fence, but we're in a supply chain issue. Can't get the chain link fence to come back in and get it all put up. And so we've just been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that to happen. And people were saying, why don't you fix the fence? Why are you waiting? And so the reason we're waiting is because we can't get the material. And it's been back ordered for some months now. So
Can it
as soon as
just
it
be
comes in
cleared
and
out?
get up,
Can it just be removed until the new material?
but could, except if you leave it there, potentially they could still play tennis. If you take it down, then
We've left it there for that reason,
They can't
Rob, so
play.
they could still play
there's some
tennis.
backstop,
Yeah.
because it's not like laying flat on the ground. It's,
I saw a
Yeah.
picture, yeah.
Yeah,
so I don't know. Yeah, we could remove it, but
if we
then it
removed
makes
it and then they couldn't play, then we're gonna get another.
So they can't play if we remove the
well,
obstacle.
if you miss the ball,
If you
then
miss
it's
the
going to be in
ball,
the
you'll be
ditch.
chasing it constantly.
Can they play now, though, even though it's
Yeah.
toppled?
They can,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, fine.
It's just ugly.
It's
I
It's just
don't-
ugly, yeah,
This is the second time it's happened.
yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I
The Outer
face that
Banks.
every morning when I
Yeah.
open the mirror.
yeah. We might
I
want to
don't-
rethink the breakaway.
I'm not sure it got fixed the first time.
It did.
Did it? Okay.
And they fixed it. And as soon as he fixed it, evidently wind came up and it broke.
So I think this time they're going to put new poles and all that. We're not going to replace some of the old rusted poles.
I
So-
serve on the advisory board. Y'all put me on the advisory board.
Thank you for that,
Pickleball.
Commissioner Bailey.
Thank you, Irvin.
You're doing a fine job,
You're doing a
sir.
great job, too.
Yes, sir. Thank
Maybe
you,
the post could
Commissioner.
get some diagonal bracing.
I'm sorry.
Maybe the post could get some diagonal bracing.
Could be. Yeah.
All right, thank you for explaining that, Bobby, to the board. Appreciate it. Dorothy, our Public Information Officer, you have anything this evening?
A reminder about the ribbon cutting and open house for Health and Human Services on Tuesday, the 24th, which is a week from tomorrow at 4:00. It's been a season of events. It
Yeah, it
seems
sure
like
has.
we've been having
That'll
a
be
lot
nice.
of ribbon
Yeah.
cuttings,
Yeah.
and so I hope hope y'all have that on your calendar. It should be a nice afternoon.
Has Sheila given you any feedback, county manager, on how that's worked out since it's been open with the public and how that's working in terms of making appointments, going in and?
I've not, there's not been any problems. I haven't
Gotcha.
asked for
I was just
what they're doing,
curious.
but I haven't had any issues with it at all that I know
Great.
about.
Good. All right, thank you, Dorothy. Finance Director, Mr. Clausen, you have anything else for us?
Our on-site pre-construction meeting for Avon and Buxton is Wednesday. And then I can bring Commissioner Ross into my FEMA sphere and say that 4 months shy of 3 years, North Carolina Emergency Management told us today that they're going to start the payment process for our Hurricane Dorian emergency protective measures for $213,000.
Wow. Wow.
Where is this meeting? What time is it? 10, okay, yeah, all right.
Dave,
This is why I love government so much, guys.
Wasn't there supposed to be some
I can't believe I
mobilization
wasted my
taking
life
place this
not in
month?
government service.
Yes, and I don't know what effect last week had on that. Probably
It is.
But
I mean,
for now, you assume that
As far
everything's
as we
on
know,
track,
they're still looking early 1st of June.
That's
to
what I
actually
thought.
Start work.
correct?
Well, no, Wednesday.
No Wednesday. Good deal. Super. Thank you. All right, anything else for the board this evening from anybody? All right, we need a motion to adjourn until 9 a.m., June the 6th. So moved. Okay, a motion on the floor by Commissioner House, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
I got a bottle.